Okay, hi everyone. This is an update from the last presentation I did on SC7 in Temishwar. And luckily we are here. That means that we have some progress to report, since we said that if we do not do anything for the next SC, we are not coming. As we see, we are here. There is some upgrade. There are small steps, but from the presentation you will see that, as many people already said today and yesterday, it takes patience, a lot of patience, and maybe a bit of more patience. Let's start this. Some history. The initial idea for IXP in Macedonia started, as you can see, several years ago on a SC meeting in Belgrade. In December 2016, the faculty starts a project, what we can translate into English as Research Platform or Testbed for High Availability Internet Connections. This was our way of finding a way to promote an idea which will later become IXP.mk, because based on historical things, we do not had a good idea on how things are running, and there was this whole idea about an IXP run by the government which failed miserably. In December 2016, we managed to use the connection both from the faculty and our good cooperation with most of the internet providers in Macedonia, and a bit of help with RIPE and ISOC to get key players on board on a meeting where we mainly discussed IPv6. Of course, part of that discussion was also in the topic of making local traffic local and important for the stability of the whole country. We lost quite a few time from March 2017 to December 2017, where we were, let's say, willing and knowing what we need to do. And luckily we had a good project which allowed us to overcome that problem with old switches, which everyone likes to donate, but they're very power hungry. So luckily we had a project. We had some switches which were spare, and it was fine that we can use them for our test bed. We decided to put them in rack and got to our initial idea. Have a neutral entity to host around the IXP. That was already the faculty for computer science education. Start with a smaller or medium ISP, and of course universities. Then try to educate some management people that IXPs are important, and run it as non-for-profit as long as the project has support from friends and faculty, and design a model in the future to make it sustainable. Since Macedonia is quite a small market, this is still a viable concept, especially since we do not expect that we will get a lot of 100 gigabit ports or any 100 gigabit ports very soon. After that, the logical thing was that we needed to create a non-formal community around the project, which will become later nog.mk. Well, this idea is still valid, like 4 years now. Part of the idea was already done before last SC. This is a quick recap. Improve the university fiber network and upgrade it to 10 gig capacity. Get a RIPE Atlas anchor at the faculty. Thanks to RIPE for doing the standard donating thing. And we also had an interesting situation about importing an atlas, whatever that means in terms of customs, when you have to pay to the customs and you need maybe some letters. Have an initial plan for the IXP infrastructure. Speak with some players who wish to extend traffic to start things moving. We found here 2 ISPs, smaller ISPs, but they were willing to experiment, create some maybe inappropriate situations when traffic will jump around, but still they're willing to try that. We were lucky because as a faculty we host 2 national governmental systems which have a lot of traffic from all other ISPs, and of course the university, which will be the key player as the logistic and technology partner in this endeavor. We discussed that maybe we will need to sign some MOUs when needed with key players, although we thought that this will be needed in the beginning with every ISP, but based on our experience, most of this happened without a formal MOU on site. So they just discovered that they're going to support this. They will come with connectivity, configure BGP, and start using the IXP. No problem on their side, at least with those smaller parties. This is how it's supposed to look. So 2 Huawei switches, we have them lying around, interconnected between them with 10 gigs. They have 4 10 gig ports, so we said maybe we have a bit of capacity for interconnection, future connection to other switches, and maybe if some big player asks for a 10 gig port, who knows what will happen. And now this is the status update. The initial Huawei switches are online and configured with 10 gig interconnection. We have IXP Manager's latest version installed and running smoothly. We got AS and IP space for IXP.mk, and for that, we would like to thank Arnold and Dead6 for providing us at least 3 years of support for this with RIPE. We have 2 route servers online, and IXP.mk is considered live officially on the 9th of July last year. We visited, okay, this sound is terrible. We visited EuroX via fellowship. We met quite a few new friends. We have 4 peers online, 2 more on the way. We received some very positive things from content players and CDNs, but with some problems. And we had some also we're getting some DNS instances on the way. Sometimes it's waiting for papers, sometimes it's arranging the whole process with the customs, because generally these people are sending you servers, and usually the servers are not yours, they are theirs, you just host them, etc. So it's a bit of paper and logistic things you have to arrange. For this, luckily Florence is not here from Google to hit me with a chair, because we are one of the biggest countries in the world, the luckiest country in the world. We are a country of 2 million people, and we are a country hosting 7 different instances of local Google caches in 7 different providers, and still half of the traffic of Google is given back from Sofia or Bucharest. I don't know why and how. Something is wrong there. So we are now hoping that maybe when this IXP is ready and there is a proper Google Cache server here, things will start to smooth a bit. And we're hoping that we'll finally get a hardware donation from a very cool set of switches we got from ISOC. As I heard, we're waiting at the great day, probably this or next week, when we got the shipping tracking information that the switch just are arriving soon in the country. And these switches will give us a bit of more thing to grow, since they are 1 to 10 gig on the basic ports, and they have 40 gigabit ports, so they will give us a bit of more room to breathe in case we need capacity. The future, or what we plan for 2019. The faculty already has the staff for the project and is committed to support the project at least until 2021. So people, knowledge, 2 point of presence, power, capacity, everything, a local optic between them, it's there, it's ready. We are now trying to increase local fiber coverage to foster better connection to IXP. The idea is that instead of asking these ISPs to come to these 2 POPs, we will strategically build several other options or places they can connect easily, or where they are already touching our fiber, so we can easily, let's say small meet-me rooms, when they can just snap a simple fiber piece and get online. We still have one big problem we need to address this year, and this is a serious problem, because we found out that this will stale the whole thing, and this is we need to find a strategic partner for international fiber connectivity. This prevents several content providers to not come. They get cold feet because of the prices, and not some tier 1 providers. Big companies can see this benefit, we are hoping, and help with donation. And anyone in this room having some dark fiber from Skopje to Sofia, please say so in the audience. The 40 gig interconnection between the 2 main switches is, let's say, not needed at the moment, because the volume of the traffic is really low, so we really don't expect that to get up that fast. at least until at least one CDN comes to the IXP. But this is something that we need to think about, especially since we need to look for probably possible donations, since getting this type of optics procured over a tender procedure, as we are a faculty, will be a serious pain, especially since we have to specify them in a way not to create competition or some other legal things which are stopping this. And the main problem will be that even if we tender this, there is a risk that none of the Macedonian companies will ask this, because we will be buying like 2 SFPs for 40 gigs, and that's not a market, and not a Macedonian company I don't know that has like this type of optics on stock. So they'll probably say for 2 SFPs, who cares, we're not getting to this tender. We found out that since Macedonia has several smaller cable companies which are not in the capital in Skopje, we will need to look for a way to approach these operators. Their number is significant, around 40. But for them, currently, there is no feasible or viable way to get to the IXP, unless we found a partnership with one of the bigger operators who is already selling to them upstream traffic to the internet, and somehow get them combined, so for them to allow to use the same connections, a bit for the IXP traffic and a bit for the internet traffic. Although this is still something we need to really think of, since we are afraid that this then internet provider will use its position to do some serious money making, and will probably that way destroy the IXP project. This probably means that we will have to find a third POP in Skopje, where we will put the switch in this operator, and then that will be an easier way for them to just join the IXP. It will be for them just to activate a session and arrange the capacity with this operator they already buy bandwidth from. This is still an idea. Frankly, I have quite personally a reserve on this that is going to function, because I'm afraid that it's going to become some point of a monopoly as soon as this gets to these cable operators. I don't know if there is a way to protect those people from just taking the prices for the IXP part way sky high. The long future, what we hope to be a bigger cooperation with Giant and Rive, and probably making this IXP a real IXP in levels, although, as I said, the amount of levels we could expect will not be that great, and if you compare them to the levels big European IXPs have. But we need to start from somewhere and then help traffic to remain local. As you see from both country Jedi and the slide Vesna showed before the coffee break, we are a bit of a white spot, and also we are hoping that this will help cooperation in the industry, especially with big transit providers, maybe hardware vendors and content providers, finally coming closer to the country, since we can provide them space where they can easily collocate under better condition, and also allow them to be really close to all the users they need to give services to. Finally, as you saw in the beginning of this presentation, our idea for a NOC stays, although based on the current situation and the development in the country, we see a lot of people changing the industry. So we have a lot of people which were with us in the last years of this endeavor. Unfortunately, most of them now decided to switch to another industry, so they're not in the ISP business anymore. And that even the amount of people having and ready for a NOC has dramatically lowered. So we are now back to a number of people which we can count on 2 hands. At the end, logically, we need to transfer this IXP initiative to a full IXP, which will mean some legal procedures in the next 3 to 5 years, I hope, and make IXP.mk self-sustainable and functioning as an independent entity, probably with some good strategic management coming again from the faculty and the university, in a way that will allow this project to continue to function in the case, I don't know, some of the key players which are now at the faculty decides to change industry or decides that he is going to go for something else. But as you can see that there is a bit of white thing on the table. Things are progressing, and we are hoping that for the next SE meeting in a year we will have at least one content provider on site and some serious traffic graphs to show you. Although it was interesting how even with that a little peers, we had a serious DDoS attack, and strangely, because of the IXP, most of the traffic from the DDoS traffic actually passed through the ISP switch fabric and saved us a lot of trouble. And actually there was no problem, since suddenly the capacity to the faculty to the internet was doubled, because there was 1 gig capacity over the IXP fabric and another gig capacity over the internet, and the traffic just was not that bad anymore, and the DDoS eventually did not create the results as the attackers thought. So even with a small thing, we saw a big benefit, but also we saw some problems, since Macedonian operators have a bit of problem with their routing policies. So several times our route servers blocked a session because somebody was trying to send us the internet. Luckily, BIRD configured with IXP Manager as a routing server, and that's the only way to join the IXP for now. In our case, just is marvelous in that part, so there is filtering for bogus, for private space, and of course for leaks, and that protected the people currently connected in the IXP, that there was no internet traffic where it shouldn't be. Well, you can see a bit in our website. We'll update it a bit more since it's our last thing we usually do. And if you have any questions, you can contact me on mail. You can use the contacts on the website and of course on Twitter. If you have questions, shoot.
Hello, I'm Jan. Can you go one slide back? What I see here is projects, industry, transit providers, hardware vendors, content providers. Again, a project, initiative. I don't see the word community. Do you plan to start building an IXP community and hold the IXP meetings in the country?
Yes.
And bring people together?
Yeah, we are hoping, and that was a bit now under question, since 2 or 3 people which were involved in this project working on some operators decided to leave the industry. So we need to find other people which will be willing to give a bit of their free time in working as a community around this. And yeah, the plan is that NOG.mk and IXP.mk will be 2 unseparate things, and they cannot function without the other. It's logically, and we are now hoping that as soon as we have some more to offer at the IXP, we will get some more feedback from the community wanting to get involved.
Yeah, because an IXP without the community is just a bunch of hardware.
Yes, of course.
Thank you.